So this year I'm going to scratch on the huge subject that is witches in historical times and witch hunting. And I have narrowed it down to talking about the so-called classical historical witch huntings in Europe and our colonies at the time. I'm going to start this video by giving you some common myths and the historical research that has been done to either confirm or debunk those myths about historical witches in Europe and mainly Europe and North America. And then we're going to talk about one of the most useful tools for these witch hunters if you want to identify, interrogate or judge a witch. And that would be the Malleus Maleficarum, or as it is translated into English, the Hammer of Witches. So I'm going to start with examining 3 myths that I've chosen, and I'm going to give you the real answers according to research that has been done on the subject by historians. The first one is that millions were killed during the Great Witch Hunt in medieval Europe, and this is actually, it's an exaggeration. Millions weren't killed. A lot of people were though, and they were killed for witchcraft during the period of the mid-1400s to the mid-1700s. According to William Monter and his book Witch Trials in Continental Europe, which can be featured in Witchcraft and Magic in Europe, and also in the book made by Brian P. Levack, The Witch Hunt in the Early Modern Europe. We have documented cases for about 80,000 trials and around 35,000 executions between 1450 and 1750, which is deemed to be the classical period, and hence that's what I'm referring to when I'm saying the classical period of witch hunting in Europe. So we have about 35,000 dead instead of millions over a period of about 300 years. Of course there could be undocumented trials and stuff, but this is what we have to go on. So a lot of people, but not that many. Then the next common myth is that to kill a witch during this classical period of witch hunting, you burned her at the stake, or him for that matter. Burning a witch was something people did. There are documented cases of people being burned at the stake. But the most common way to execute a witch was, judging the records left today, hanging. They could also be beheaded, drowned, broken on the wheel. They were rarely buried alive, boiled, impaled, sawed in two, flayed, drawn, unquartered or disembodied, as other contemporary villains were. Other punishments inflicted on convicted witches included mutilating them, like cutting off a hand or an ear, branding them, whipping them, dunking them, locking them in the stocks, jailing them, fining them, banishing them, or even selling them into slavery. So even the most famous of witch trial myths gets this wrong though. It's common knowledge for anyone interested in witches, but not that well read, to think that alleged witches in Salem in colonial Massachusetts were burned at the stake. All of the convicted so-called witches during the Salem witch hunt in 1692 were though hanged and died by hanging, and others accused died either of natural causes before conviction or execution, and Giles Corey was pressed to death. In fact, no witches were executed by burning at the stake in the English colonies in North America, because it was illegal according to the present laws in the colonies. Moving on from that grisly rambling of punishments, I'm going to talk about the myth that all witches were women. This is not true. Men were convicted of witchcraft, and though most victims of the witch hunt were women, and the Malleus Maleficarum makes a glorious point of pointing out how evil women can be, other documents from the time as well portray women as the most susceptible to evil influences and to be drawn to the dark side. But it's not that black and white as a medieval femicide. However, females were the prominent target group for many witch trials, and there are regional differences here. In some places there were only women trialed, in some places there were only men. But it is believed that more females died than men convicted of witchcraft. So, on to my favorite subject of the day. This one. This is my personal copy of the Malleus Maleficarum, and it was the to-go book for witch hunters during the classical period. And well, it was finished in 1487, and it was more than just an instruction guide on how to find and put witches for a trial. It was a treaty, and it was an acknowledgement from the papal state and other institutions that such witch hunting was sanctioned and needed. The text is divided into following 6 parts, or 5 parts. First we have the justification from the authors, and then we have the papal bull, and an approbation by professors of theology at the University of Cologne, or Cologne, I don't know how to pronounce that. We also have a table of contents, and then we have the main text, which is separated into 3 different sections. Every part, except the main text and the table of contents, is justifications or approvals from authorities of the time for the book. First from the authors, explaining the dangers of Satan and the final days being heralded by the rise of sorcery. Then we have the papal bull, which is from the Pope. And lastly, from the professors at of theology at the University of Cologne. And also included here is sanction from Maximilian I, Emperor of the Holy Roman Empire at the time, who states that he takes the Inquisitions, or the Inquisitors, under his full protection, and he also orders his citizens to render aid to their cause. The book has been hugely influential throughout history, and it was for a long time the second best-selling book in the world, just bested by the Bible. Between 1487 and 1520, 20 different editions of the Malleus Maleficarum was published, and another 16 were published between 1574 and 1669. So even in its own time it was widely spread. The main text itself divided into 3 parts. We have the evil intentions of the witch, the help of the devil, and then the permission of God. These make out the main bulk of the book and are aimed at the different target groups of their audience. The first part is more of a theological part, and it's aimed at clergy members and describes what is witchcraft and discusses those kind of things. The second lays the foundation for the next section by describing actual forms of witchcraft and its remedies. Then the third section is to assist judges confronting and combating witchcraft, and then to aid inquisitors by removing that burden from them. However, each of these 3 sections has prevailing themes of what is witchcraft and who is a witch. The book itself makes for quite a horrid read for the modern person. There are suggestions that torture is a nifty way to gain confessions, and if that doesn't work, you can always try deception. Confessions gained through torture needs to be double-checked, though, after the torture has ceased. The book does, however, also say that it's fine to torture them again if they change their mind, because, well, they come to their senses and maybe they try to lie again. Also, it's from the Malleus Maleficarum that those who wish to point out the aim of getting women branded as evil witches get a lot of fuel from. The book describes women as more naturally bent towards evil and to fall for Satan's deceptions. It contains wonderful descriptions of female nature, such as that we are temperamental towards flux, defective in all powers, both soul and body, and that women therefore is evil as a result of nature because she doubts more quickly in the faith. These are in no way novel thoughts of the time. There are a string of texts with similar contents from that period. Worth noting, though, is that only one of the authors, Kramer, held and executed trials, while his colleague Spregner simply assisted and consulted on a few cases. Also worth noting here is that all Kramer's trials were aimed at women, and according to some scholars he seems to have been the more devout misogynist of the two. A lot of the examples in the books do show male witches, on the other hand, and males were described as potential witches, though they had different motivations from the female witches. Male witches were more driven by the need and want for power, while women were driven by a lust or a disbelief in God. So, what constitutes a witch according to the Malleus Maleficarum? Well, according to Mackay's translation and interpretation of the book, which I have the edition from 2011, there are 6 activities that characterize the conviction of an engaged witch. The first one is a pact entered with the devil, and hence being a heretic and denying Christianity. There are also sexual relations with the devil, and sexual relations with demons are prominent as ways of doing magic. Aerial flight for the purpose of attending an assembly presided by Satan himself, where most of the witches are initiated, and also engage in incest and promiscuous sex with other attendees. We also have the practice of a maleficent magic and the slaughter of babies. So yeah. These are things that they would aim to prove that someone had taken part in if they wanted to convict someone as a witch or for witchcraft. It is also many of the activities that we today think of when one shall describe what constitutes an evil witch. In the medieval period, and in some extents even a classic Halloween witch today, flying and stuff like that. The Malleus Maleficarum and the witch hunt lost traction with the upheaval of critical thinking and science during the Enlightened period in the late 1700s. But we can still see judgment of witches stretching through even some places into the 19th century throughout different parts of Europe. The latest popular recognized victim of such persecutions, as far as I know, would be Barbara Zdunk in Prussia in 1811, though her charges didn't claim witchcraft, since that had ceased to be a crime by then. The last known official witch trial was the Doruchów witch trial in Poland in 1783. And with those words, I think I'm going to leave you there. There's a lot of reading to be done if you're interested in witches and their historical fates. I would recommend looking into Mackay's translation of the Hammer Witches, because well, it's a good translation, and it includes a lot of further reading and tips and discussions about the witch hunt period. I'm also going to leave you with some of the books and the link that I have used for this video, and I hope that it was interesting. And yeah, bye bye, and happy scary Halloween, everyone.